Um, Thanks so much for joining. I appreciate it. I'm Scott Schoenberger, as Diana mentioned, and I work on the agent builder team here at UiPath. Focus primarily on low-code agents, but have some background and understanding of kind of all of our agentic offerings. I came from integration service originally, and have been here for about 4 years, so I kind of know my way around the platform. I know it can be kind of dizzying, frankly, in terms of all of the features that we offer. But yeah, today I wanted to kind of run you through the workshop that we did at Fusion. So we had our big, kind of yearly conference in Vegas 2 weeks ago, I guess it was. Time flies. At the Win, and we did two different workshops specifically for low-code agents, and kind of went through building a conversational agent with agents as tools, so kind of a multi-agent solution. And what I wanted to do today was kind of walk through that. My goal was for this to be interactive. So I don't know, Diana, do we have the capability here of having people go off mute should they so choose?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Yeah. Well, my thought was we can make this interactive and collaborative, and I can answer any questions that you might have. I'm also going to be going over. I have to do my standard disclaimer here. I'm going over a bunch of stuff that is either brand new or totally unreleased. Actually, I think at this point most of this stuff is totally released, but when we went over this in Fusion, it wasn't. So here's the disclaimer: safe harbor, right? We're showing you kind of some latest and greatest, and I think there's also kind of the expectation that some of this stuff, particularly while it's in preview, is going to change. But the hope here is that it's available and you can start working with it. So today, what I want to go over is we're going to do a full build and run. So you kind of watch me build. In the workshop, everybody built along with me. But yeah, I think we'll probably save that for the next in-person event. So yeah, we're going to build a real world use case. It's going to have multiple agents. It's going to feature conversational agents, which is now in preview. It's going to feature, I don't know if folks have been using IXP, but IXP is our kind of latest iteration of document understanding, so intelligent document processing. You're going to take a look at the flow canvas, which is kind of a new visual canvas that allows you to, build your agents. It's just part of the authoring experience, but build your agents in a way that's perhaps more intuitive. I can also talk through some concepts with guardrails, which of course are a really key feature that we offer in order to kind of have programmatic checks over what your agent is, how it works with tools, what type of inputs it can handle. And yeah, so the goal of the session today is kind of collect your feedback, answer any questions. I'm hoping that we could have a discussion at the end if this doesn't go all the way up till time. So yeah, feel free to come off mute and interrupt me if you'd like, or drop a note in the chat. I will be presenting, so I'll probably not be looking at it immediately, but eventually I will. So today, what I was thinking we could do is, and again, this is the kind of the same use case that we built together at the workshop at Fusion. It's a transitional care management chat agent, so to speak. So just to set the table here, when hospitals discharge patients, a lot of times they discharge those patients with specific care plans for transitioning to home care. These are really important because there are a lot of very costly readmissions of these patients into hospitals that otherwise could have been avoided if they were dispatched with or discharged with specific instructions for how to take care of themselves and what kind of help they're going to need and what medication, that kind of stuff. So basically what this does is it automates the review of the discharge docs and also potentially the full patient summary. It takes a look at kind of compliance data in terms of state and local regulations and making sure that the transitional care plan is up to snuff, so to speak. And it reconciles all of that information and kind of prints out the plan. So this saves quite a bit of time. As you can probably imagine, this is something that in the RPA world or just API programmatic automation is kind of eluded the ability to be automated because of how semantic reasoning heavy this is. So this is a really good opportunity to apply agents. So this is kind of what it's going to look like in terms of the canvas here. We'll have this chat agent that accepts a patient record, and you'll see kind of in debug the ability to add an attachment to go ahead and analyze with the tools that are provided. And we're going to use that IXP model for extracting key fields from the record. I'm going to go ahead and show you a templated model that we have available kind of right off the shelf for reviewing medical records and extracting specific fields. But the idea with IXP, of course, is that you can build any kind of custom model that you'd like and identify kind of a specific schema of fields that you want to extract. Now, the key thing here, I probably failed to mention in the previous slide, was the ability for agents to work with files. I think that is kind of a huge improvement that we've just released. And so what I'll show you, of course, like the ability to add an attachment to an agent to process at runtime using IXP, but you could use any tool, right? So the ability to pass that file at runtime for another tool to process, you can use any kind of parser or extractor that kind of meets your use case and needs. We've also added kind of an out-of-the-box, we call it a built-in tool, which I'll show you, which allows you to pass files directly to the model where compatible. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. You have two autonomous agents that we're going to add as tools. Now, in this case, for the conversational agent, it makes sense to add them as tools. But if this were a fully autonomous kind of end-to-end solution, we might build this in Maestro, which is our kind of business process mapping canvas or tool for manipulating agents, humans, robots, and kind of defining what all of their roles are. So yeah, and then I can also show you kind of a guardrail for logging PII. So this agent is obviously going to be working with highly sensitive medical data, and so having the ability to just determine which tools are working with that PII is good for auditing purposes. Now, the patient record I'll show you today is obviously totally fictional. This is I'm doing things by the book, so to speak. Okay, so I'm going to exit out of here and I'm going to switch over to Studio. So first and foremost, what I'm going to do is hopefully most of you folks are pretty familiar. If not, this is UiPath. So I'll just go back to the home really quick so that you can see. When you log into Automation Cloud, this is the screen that you show up to. In the panel on the left here, I have kind of all of the different build and monitoring tools or features that we offer. Studio is kind of like the go-to in terms of building any type of automation asset, whether that's an agent, a Maestro process, which again is the business process mapping tool that we have for working with agents, humans, and robots. And you can also build, of course, your API workflows here, your RPA workflows. Everything's kind of neatly arranged here under Create New. So we are going to build an agent first and foremost. You can start building an agent and then add to your solution an RPA workflow, which we'll talk about in a second. You can also import a solution file here, so you can go ahead and share solution files across your team or with customers, whatever it might be. So we're going to start off with an agent, and I'm just going to grab my materials here, which I didn't grab beforehand. Sorry. Okay, so first and foremost, when I start with an agent, the three options I get are primarily, well, two of them are kind of authoring preferences. So kind of like what type of IDE do you want to work with? And what I mean by that is, are you building an autonomous or low code agent, or are you building a coded agent? So we offer a variety of different, flavors or frameworks for you to kind of build a coded agent in Python, use like LangGraph or LangChain, and go ahead and publish that coded agent directly to Orchestrator so that you can start working with that in a Maestro, process map, or that coded agent can be called externally from some other platform. Now, the other option is low code, and that's what I'm going to show you today. That's kind of our, quote unquote, citizen developer friendly interface for building agents. And the final one is this conversational agent. And this is primarily focused on, hey, this agent is the intention is for it to be interacted with somebody via a chat, right? So autonomous and potentially coded are really meant to be run in the background versus conversational, which I guess coded could be conversational as well, but neither here nor there. Conversational is the idea is that somebody's interacting with it via chat. So we're going to do conversational because that's what we said. But I also wanted to mention here, if you are kind of not sure where to start, of course, we offer the autopilot for developer feature. It's kind of across all of our build assets. So, if you want to just describe in natural language what your agent's supposed to do, you can do so here. Since I already have kind of the prompts I'm going to use and know which tools I want, I'm going to go ahead and start fresh. So we'll start fresh here. Okay.
Hey, Scott, there's a question if you could please zoom it a little bit and increase the size so they could see it better.
How's that?
Yeah.
We'll see things now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Yeah. So basically, what we're going to do here is so this is your canvas. This is what I mentioned before. This is our kind of flow view. I can switch over to form if I want. So folks that maybe are super familiar with Agent Builder might be more accustomed to this view. I actually prefer the flow view now, but it's totally up to you in terms of your preference. And this is kind of what we get in terms of again, I'm building an agent here. So this is kind of what the interface looks like, all of the different components that make up an agent. And on the left side here, you'll see kind of the solution explorer. So if I were to add kind of dependencies, so RPA workflows or API workflows or whatever it might be, even the business process map, I would add it to the solution file, and then I would see those assets show up in this left nav over here. So first and foremost, I'm going to just go ahead and rename this. I'm going to say, what are we doing? This is DevConnect Workshop. And then we'll go ahead and say this is the conversational agent. You can rename that if you want. You don't have to. Totally up to you. And then first things first, I'm going to go ahead and kind of show you some of the componentry here. Now, obviously, one of the most important selections you can make outside of the prompt is what model you're working with. I like specifically for conversational agents to work with the Claude models, but again, this is totally preference. You can kind of switch between these models at your discretion. What these models are ultimately responsible for are, of course, managing the kind of agentic loop. So all of the different LLM calls that are executed are going against this model. Now you have options here, right? You can use, as you can see, all of these at the top here. other than custom. All of these models are subscriptions that are maintained and managed by UiPath. So we have kind of reserved capacity with these vendors, and these are all part of our AI trust layer. And of course, you're paying for the agentic unit, so you're paying for the opportunity to use these models, but we manage the actual infrastructure on the back. Also, kind of just speaking to AI trust layer, right? All of the LLM calls that are executed go through this gateway, so to speak. And there's all sorts of security measures in place for managing, kind of the transport layer in a secure way and making sure that all of the data that leaves to these vendors is totally anonymous and cleansing things on the way back as well. We offer a couple of different options that you can look into in the AI trust layer configuration to do things like, hey, I want you to mask all of the PII, any PII that's detected before it goes to one of these LLM providers. Kind of create a placeholder, and then on the way back, kind of re-add the PII or PHI information to those placeholders. So we offer a lot of options, I think, in terms of making sure that your agents are enterprise safe and ready for production. One other thing I was going to note, OpenAI, so this Llama 3, we don't actually support this as a subscription that we manage and operate on our own, but you can add any model that kind of comports with the OpenAI API spec. So basically what that means is you have your own model that you want to use. Fantastic. You can go ahead and add that into the AI trust layer, and we'll make sure that this agent or effectively any product that uses LLMs within UiPath uses that model instead. So that's kind of a nice feature. I'm going to use Sonnet 4. You have some other options here in terms of temperature and tokens per response. I'm going to just leave those at default, but things that you can manipulate to have each one of those LLM traces or steps be more precise or more creative, depending on the use case and need. Next thing I'm going to go to, if I click here on the conversational agent node, again, outside of model, I think probably the most important thing you can possibly do in terms of, having, results that are meaningful, observable, that are getting you where you need to go. You need to tell your agent what it needs to do. And this is something that I think that some people struggle with a little bit in terms of prompt engineering and all that stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and add my prompt here, and we can talk through some of the things that are involved. So basically, the conversational agent, as you can probably imagine, it is only going to require a system prompt. The user prompt is always going to come from the person who's chatting with the agent. But yeah, in terms of kind of what a good prompt looks like, you always want to kind of identify first and foremost what is the agent's role, right? And what are the responsibilities? And within responsibilities, you can see that I've identified here are the very specific steps you will take in order to accomplish your goal or objective, right? And I have those in sequential order. The next thing that you can see is I have some important guidelines. So this is where I'm going to offer some constraints around how it is supposed to execute its objective, right? So not just the sequence of, kind of steps that it will go to accomplish its objective, but what are the constraints in terms of how it goes about doing that, right? The final thing here you can see is an example scenario. So this is kind of, I give the agent a kind of golden scenario that's available, for it to reference to see what a good, kind of happy path might look like. You might also provide some negative examples. And also, if this is all too overwhelming for you anyways, There's always the option to switch over to, you can see I clicked on this health score. So I can switch over to the health score and I can see ideally, it will come up with a health score for this specific prompt and give me some suggestions on how to improve the prompt and what kind of tools I need to add. Now, I haven't added any tools, so I'm obviously going to get a 0 on this score. But if I clicked on prompt here, I get a couple of kind of recommendations, right? Now, for autonomous agents, you'll be able to kind of review these suggestions, and it will automatically kind of apply to the agent. But here I'm just kind of getting some additional instructions. But again, these are developer tools to help get you on the way, to help kind of like understand what makes a good prompt versus a bad prompt, how you can improve. These are, more or less generic, but are based off of, kind of benchmarks that we've set internally. So definitely worth your while to take a look at these suggestions. Particularly if you're not getting the kind of like results that you're expecting. You can also always switch over to this autopilot experience and kind of ask it to help come up with some ideas and suggestions for how to kind of build a more effective agent. So this is a chat experience, right? So I can chat and I can kind of add anything I'd like. That was just kind of a suggested prompt at the top, but I don't need to follow any of anything in specific. I can chat directly using natural language, right? Let's see here. So, okay, we have a prompt. We've selected our model. What's next? I'm so like agents are really good at a variety of different things, right? Some of which include semantic reasoning is the primary one, and classification, summarization, all of that good stuff. But without adding tools or context, that's pretty much all it can do. So I have to provide some kind of input into the agent. Insofar as context is concerned, that's the knowledge, that's the ability to kind of give it access to specific information available in documents, in standard operating procedures, whatever it might be. That's kind of where I'm going to add that knowledge. And then in terms of actually executing functions, right? So giving the agent the ability to perform a function call, to actually do stuff, giving it arms and legs, I have to add tools. So the first one we talked about was IXP, which is right here, but you'll see this is kind of our toolbox. I think that this is a somewhat of a differentiator, right, in terms of the types of tools that we offer you out of the box. We sometimes say that this is like batteries included, so to speak. But you can see any of the RPA workflows that I've built and deployed, or if I've added to the Solution Explorer on the left-hand side here, those will become available under RPA workflows. API workflows, same thing. Agents, same thing. So I can have, one agent calling another agent, right? And kind of have that, Russian doll effect type of deal. Agents calling agents calling agents. I can also, add individual integration service activities. So this is brand new. We're excited to kind of offer all of the connectors in our connector catalog. There are a couple caveats here. We haven't yet made attachments or files available, but so in other words, like upload file or download file is not available yet for like SharePoint or Google Drive, but there's a whole lot that you can do directly here. And wherever, even for that kind of specific example of a constraint, you can always build an RPA workflow or an API workflow to handle kind of constraints on individual activities as tools. But this should be a huge, kind of, I think, productivity boost, at least for developers, to add individual integration service activities that benefit from, kind of the connection being maintained and that ping service, right? Keeping those connections open. Some other things that we've added. So we just added MCP servers. You have the ability to connect to a remote MCP server. You can connect to a coded MCP server that you've built in-house, and you would go to Orchestrator to set that up. Just to back up a few steps, I'm assuming most people know what this is, but MCP refers to Model Context Protocol. And this is kind of a protocol that's really gained a lot of steam. Came out from, Anthropic was the organization that kind of penned this or authored it. And this is a great way for, again, if you don't see kind of the tool that you're looking for in our toolbox, you can always add your own kind of set of tools and use this protocol, which is optimized specifically to give agents an understanding of what tools are available, like so the description and how to interact with them, right, effectively, and kind of connect multiple tool calls together to achieve an objective. The one that we're going to go over is IXP, as I mentioned, but there's also this built-in tools, and this is where that analyze attachments tool is. You're going to use this, for instance, if like I wanted to send a image, right, to the LLM to go ahead and get a description of the visual content or whatever the task is in terms of working with that multimodal input. You can also pass PDF files directly to all of the models that we support right now. If you bring your own custom model, that might not be the case, but all of the subscriptions that we manage on our side, you can send a PDF directly to. Always have to be careful, though, in terms of the context window. If you send a massive file, there's the possibility that you go over that context window and the agent will fail. So what we're going to do is add this IXP as a tool. So this is the medical document extraction model. And this is just a model that I pulled right off the shelf. It was built by, I assume, the IXP team. And you can see here I have these field groups and individual fields. This is the type of information that's going to be pulled from the document that I send in. And again, remember, I'm using the IXP tool to extract information from a patient record, discharge details to build that transitional care plan, right? So I'm going to leave it as is. Now, really important, just like a best practice, right, for working with tools. It's always a good idea to offer kind of an additional description for these tools. The agent does use this as, you can almost think of it as like a mini prompt, right? The agent uses this to determine when this tool is necessary and how to work with it, right? Not absolutely required, but again, one of those kind of like one of the dials you can work with to make sure that the tool is getting called at the right time and for the right purpose. So I'm going to go ahead and say this tool is for extracting values from the patient record. Cool. Yep. And then basically what this, anywhere you see this purple text, that basically means that the agent is going to infer where that attachment is coming from. Now, obviously the user that is chatting with this chatting with this agent is going to pass the attachment in. And so it should be able to infer that that's what it's supposed to work with in terms of extracting the values from a specific file. Now, I might want to change this, for instance, like change the description here in the event that there could be multiple files passed in, right? Like, how does the agent distinguish which file it's supposed to execute the medical document extraction on? So just kind of covering some best practices for how to build agents effectively. That's definitely one of them. Okay, so I have my medical document extraction tool. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of take a detour over to escalation land. And the reason I want to show you this, this is a brand new offering. It comes with the IXP as a tool. For folks that are familiar with IXP as a tool, we also have this lovely kind of custom or curated interface that allows you to validate the extracted values from a document understanding or IXP project, right? So the idea here is that I might want to have a human actually review these individual extractions, during runtime. So in other words, the agent, kind of stops its forward progress until a human is called in and reviews these extraction fields. Now, you might not always need this, right? Let's go ahead and I'm gonna give this a name, document. Let's call it IXP document validation station. And we'll give this a description. This is required. So you're going to be in a validation here until you add something. Use this to validate the fields. Again, this might be overboard, right? Like I've already provided most of this information into the prompt, but it doesn't hurt. This is just kind of providing a little bit more direction. Remember, you're working with when you're working with probabilistic inference machines, this is always a good idea. So use this to validate the fields extracted from the IXP medical document extraction model. Okay, now because I've added this as a document validation task, I have to identify which IXP tool. So the idea would be maybe you have multiple models that you're using within an individual agent run. You have to identify which one you want to use, right? Next here, I'm going to have to add a storage bucket. This is for auditing purposes. This is where I'm going to, kind of store the extracted fields and any modifications that are made. So I'll kind of show you what that means. So I'm going to put my name here because there's lots of tasks in the task folder in Action Center. Schoenberger IXP, oh, sorry, transitional care plan extraction. Cool. And then I can set the priority. Now, escalations. What are escalations? I guess I should take a step back and just answer that again. If it wasn't obvious, escalations are used to bring a human into the kind of agentic loop under specific circumstances. The circumstances should be, identified up here in the description and also in the prompt. But basically, I need to bring a human in to kind of correct or potentially validate what an agent is doing. An agent might, kind of come across a situation that it doesn't know what to do during runtime. And so it would use this escalation to go ahead and get additional details for kind of next steps. I can build out, like this is a curated experience, but I can build out a totally custom app using UiPath apps and very custom actions that the app would take. The ability to modify some of the kind of information that's available in the agent's context window to potentially alter its course, right? So this is really important in terms of making sure the agent is doing what it's supposed to do, and also for identifying situations under which a human really should get involved, right? It's a situation that's risky. You also have the option, I'm probably throwing too much information at you, but you have the option to run the agent, have an output, and then have your next task be kind of a review task in an Action Center app. And the reason you might do that is because the escalation, when it's a part of the agent, is still probabilistic, right? So it's still something that kind of relies on the reasoning capabilities of the agent, and it might not execute, right? And so if you need a situation where the output of the agent always has to be reviewed, like the kind of passing off to the human is part of the process. In a lot of cases for, health and life sciences, that is the case, right? Somebody needs to come in and review what the agent has put together. In this case, the conversational agent is going to just print that output directly to the healthcare provider. But, in situations where you don't want this to be 100% autonomous, you might want to add a task that runs after the agent instead of as part of the agent's runtime. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. I'm actually going to pause real quick. I'm sure there a bunch of questions. Holy smokes, look at those. Does anybody want to come off mute and just ask directly, or do you want me to read?
Yeah, I just think, Scott, that the real question is, do you have costing sheets for agents, AI units, platform units? That's the first one.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into costing today. This is mostly a feature discussion. So we have that information available. We'd be happy to share it. But yeah, I'm going to kind of focus on features today, if that's okay.
Yeah, and then Brian just commented, the tool is SEO. I'm not sure what you meant by that, Brian, if you want to come off mute. And then Charlie Luddington said, can these escalations be delivered to the user in Teams or Outlook?
Yeah, excellent question. So we've just made it so that you can create kind of actionable notifications in Teams, Outlook, and Slack. There are it's brand new. So basically the idea is the app that you create in UiPath apps could theoretically be available in those other kind of channels that people are regularly using within businesses. So Teams, Outlook, Slack. In certain cases, the apps aren't going to be compatible, but you can kind of, even for those situations, you can always create a somewhat simple form that can be interacted with directly in those interfaces. Does that make sense?
So if a form or an app would have to be created, is that correct?
Yes, but we'll have templates that you can use, and all of the developer, kind of autopilot features that we have for developers. You can use natural language to build apps, and but we'll have kind of like easy approve, deny type templates that you can kind of start from, and build some kind of a custom experience if that's what you need, to be delivered in Outlook or Teams.
Okay, and then I guess another similar question, like the agents, can they also be interacted with via Teams? Like, or they have to be interacted with via like a UiPath app or through an assistant?
Yes, they should be. Yeah, they're available. The conversational agents can be delivered through those interfaces. I'm gonna I can probably kind of get you some documentation for how that works.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep. If it wasn't totally simply meant that adding description text to tools, SEO, you would perform. Yeah, I guess. I think so. If you want to come off mute and anyways, moving on. So let's see here. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to add a couple of agents as tools. I've already created some of these agents, so I'm going to just go ahead and say import existing to this specific solution. And I have two different agents that I want to use. And there's everything that's available in your orchestrator is going to be available here as well. So I need to use the transitional care, and I got to make sure I find the right one. That ain't it. A lot of, let's see here. Give me a second. I have a lot of repeats, clearly. Okay, I think this one's it, but maybe not. So we'll see. I'll see if it needs to be changed. So I want to import the transitional care one, and then the other one that I want is the compliance agent. And I'll explain what both of these are in a second here. Let's see. Actually, I think this one's it. Yeah, this is it. Sorry. So I'll delete this one. Live demos. So much fun.
Hmm.
So now we're looking for compliance agent. This is it. Ha, found it. Hooray. Okay. Okay, so I've added a couple of agents to the solution file, but they're not actually added as tools yet. Uh, these are dependencies that are part of the file, but they're not actually referenced in terms of this individual conversational agent. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to talk about each agent, just kind of go through maybe almost as like a refresher for what the agent definitions look like and all of that good stuff. But in order to actually add these, I have to add, so I go there and I go to agent and I see in my current solution. So these are the dependencies that are already part of this file. And I'll just go ahead and click on both to add them. Hopefully that kind of makes sense, right? That there's, I can reference, the resources are missing. What does that mean? Uh-oh. Let me re-add this. Ah, this looks like an issue with, I'm going to go ahead and delete this and re-add. Give me 1 second. Oh, I wish we didn't have so many projects in here. Okay, looks like I have a error here because I haven't identified some of the resources. And so it's giving me a validation error. Now I can go ahead and just delete this and re-add this. And I want the TCM policy and error goes away. Hooray! I'm going to go over here and do the same thing because this is probably busted. So I'll just delete this and re-add the context. And then we'll talk through kind of what these what the context indexes mean for each one of these things. Okay, so kind of going back to the conversational agent, just to remind everybody where we're at, right? The specific, I don't know why this keeps deleting. Yikes. So I'll add this back. Uh-oh. Well, we might have some problems here. I'm gonna go ahead and just explain the rest of this. Maybe I have to delete on this side. No? Okay. So I'm just going to explain some of these things real quick. So I have in terms of where we're at in the overall solution here, I have the conversational agent that's accepting the patient record. I have the IXP model, which is extracting the fields from the patient record. And the next thing that I want to do is have this autonomous agent that actually builds the transitional care management plan. So I give it the role, I have the goals, right? Kind of all of the things that we said are important for, kind of agents in terms of the prompt. And I have kind of instructions that ask it to go ahead and use the TCM policy to generate a plan specifically for all of the, kind of information that comes in from the medical record. So you can see over here in the data manager, I have this medical record is going to be what the extracted values come from, the IXP project that passes the extracted values into the medical record will come in through there. And my output is going to be this action plan, right? And that's kind of the meat and potatoes of this whole agent. And as this is an autonomous agent, which of course is different than the conversational agent in the sense that it has this data manager. The inputs and outputs are defined by me. I can add, additional inputs and outputs. I can define, the data type for each one of those things. As you can see, I also have that file capability here, so I can pass files between tools, which is very nice. And then you can also see in the data manager, I have the ability to add, of course, just like everywhere, you have the ability to add descriptions to kind of help the agent understand what these inputs are, what the outputs are, and what you want from the agent. So I'm going to go back to the compliance agent here. And so once the transitional care plan is created, I have this compliance agent, which is just going ahead and taking the action plan, and it's referencing kind of state and local guidelines and requirements in order to ensure that the transitional care plan is in fact compliant. And so for these two autonomous agents, all they're doing is they're referencing context that's available likely in documents or database tables that are already available to you. So there's no need to like go and build these things out. It's taking business knowledge and making a decision based on that knowledge, and obviously using the runtime values that are passed into it. So going back over to the conversational agent now, which is giving me all sorts of headaches. Let me see if we can re-add these agents. Uh-oh, resources. I'm going to go out and see if I can come back in. Yikes. Okay. Well, let me go ahead and try one last ditch effort. And if it doesn't work, then we might have to close for today. So this is already solution. I'm going to re-add these again. Delete from the file. And I'm going to delete from the file. Okay, so those have been removed from my dependencies here. I'm going to go ahead and delete these too. So these are the context grounding indexes. I'm going to remove those as well to see if that was the issue. Let's go ahead and try one more time. Fusion Workshop, where are you? That ain't it. I'm going to go back to the transitional care management agent. Okay. So theoretically, we should be good. Hopefully, none of the resource issues are coming up again, but we will see. Uh-oh, looks like we are stuck. So I'll have to figure this out. But basically, what I was going to show you is once you run this, and we'll be able to see realistically, at least the IXP document validation step. Let's go ahead and try that. Okay, so in debug, you can see that I have this chat interface to be able to preview kind of what the conversational agent would look like. And I have the ability to attach files directly here. I'm going to attach a file from, let's see here, sample medical record. Please create a transitional care plan for this patient. And so this is going to fail because we don't have the other agents that are working, unfortunately, today. But ideally, I'll be able to at least show you the extracted values for the document that I've passed it. So let's go ahead and see. Now, what's nice is that I can see kind of what the conversational agent is going to do. It's going to print out a full explanation of what it's planning on doing. Now I can see the individual steps that it's taking. So I see it is running the model, and I have, it's got the attachment, full name, and you can see these execution steps. You can also move over to the history tab and see kind of historical traces. I can see individual steps that the agent is taking, just to kind of give you a preview of how we do pricing. Each one of these steps effectively costs an agent unit. So the individual LLM steps, and then of course executing the tool call is another LLM step. So going back over here, so it ran the IXP document validation station, and it's gone ahead and created a validation task as we asked it to. So I'm going to click into here. And this is where you can kind of see like the power of Action Center and the types of apps that you can build. So this should be available here. And here's the medical record that was processed, right? Now, if I assign this to myself, I can now take a look at individual fields that were extracted. So the insurance information didn't get anything there. But it did get kind of diagnostic names. The ICD-10 diagnostic codes were not extracted, but I could add them manually here if I wanted to, right? And I get kind of all of these cells that were unconfirmed in case like the medical practitioner wants to go ahead and add this information in manually. But I can see the fields that were, kind of extracted from the tool. And once clicking submit, that's, if I modify some of these fields, that's what goes back to the agent ultimately. So I'm going to click submit with the understanding that the agent will not progress because the other agents are not available. So let's see here. Uh-oh. Man, all the things are going wrong today. I'll go back into Action Center. Looks like it just got into a bad state. Cool. So now that, of course, the progress of the agent was halted while it was validating that. And this actually went ahead and didn't use any kind of the additional agents. It just went ahead and created the transitional care plan as was instructed in the prompt. As it basically assumed it didn't have the tools to do that, and it used kind of its information of transitional care management to go ahead and build this out. Now, ideally, we have both of those agents that act as tools, right? The first agent that builds out the actual plan using the context grounding index, and the second agent that uses the context grounding, index that references local and state regulations to make sure that it's compliant. But I think you got kind of a general understanding of the capabilities. I'll have to figure out what was going on with the agents with the resources not being defined, but that's kind of it. So happy to take questions and if we have some time. I think we have like 5 minutes. Is that right, Diana?
Yeah, and something came in on the questions before we open up the mics, but Anil is asking, he said we can call individual agents as part of a main agent and make the process multi-agent process. Can we also extract multiple documents in the process to identify the type of document and extract relevant data?
Yeah, 100%. So you can add multiple IXP models if that's what you want to use for extractions. You can add multiple kind of files for the agent to work with as inputs, right? One thing I will kind of note, you need to be careful always about going over the context window limit, right? So each one of those models has a set number of tokens that it can kind of manage. And you got to think about every kind of subsequent call made to an LLM, adding more kind of context to the context window, you're getting closer and closer to what that model allows. And so there are lots of different kind of strategies and methods to go about managing that issue. The biggest one, of course, is context grounding, right? You need to think about, you want to offer information to the agent that's contextually and semantically relevant to your use case. So if you're just kind of extracting all of the information from a document and sending that directly to the window and expecting the agent to just take care of it, yeah, that's one strategy, but you're also kind of increasing the risk of hallucination. You're increasing the risk of potentially getting the wrong answer, right? So you want to think about that. All of the tools that you add should be kind of very honed to whatever the kind of expectation is for the agent output. And providing irrelevant information is going to cause problems. Hopefully that answered the question. Any others?
Yeah, thanks. I think I am audible. Sorry. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I don't see any other questions, but if anybody would like to take themselves off mute and ask a question. I'm not seeing any more questions, Scott. I think that's
Okay.
it for today.
Cool. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry that that's how live demos go sometimes. I'm sure everybody can relate. But again, theoretically, you should be able to add any agent you have deployed in Orchestrator as an agent, as a tool for your agent. And likewise, within Maestro, you can work with you can work with agents that you've deployed in Orchestrator, but you can also work with agents that are deployed elsewhere, right? So we have, I know a lot of demos out there showing how we've connected to, agents in Salesforce or ServiceNow. So we kind of offer that flexibility to work with these external systems if you've built those into your end-to-end, kind of automation practice. But thanks, everybody. I really appreciate it. Hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you, Scott.